All right, so we've got the college football playoff selection show, a second unveiling tonight, and a couple of things to look at first. To me, the most important thing to look at is where does Tennessee drop? Is Tennessee still ahead of Oregon? Are they behind TCU, ahead of TCU? To me, that's the big takeaway. Where is Tennessee in relation to TCU?
Yeah, I think those are the two things. Is TCU finally get into the top four, and how far does Tennessee fall? I believe TCU does not get into the top four. I think Tennessee falls to 4.
Here's our picks. Taylor Corn throwing these together for us. We put them in. It's the first time I've seen everybody else's vote. And we all have the same top 4.
That's right.
Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and Tennessee. 1, 2, 3, 4. We all agree there. We're a little different. Brown and I like Oregon a little bit more than LT does. LT goes TCU and LSU. Brown and I go Oregon and TCU there. So you like LSU at 6, huh?
I do. Yeah, I think when you start to look at the wins now over Alabama, over Ole Miss, I think those are quality wins. So I think LSU, neutral site, who wins that game, LSU or Oregon?
I would take Oregon.
Would you really?
I think LSU-Oregon neutral site will be a fun game. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a toss-up. I don't know what you would say the Vegas line is. I would consider that almost a pick 'em.
Yeah, I think LSU probably would be a slight favorite.
Yeah,
but I think it'd be really close.
That's a good game.
Now, with Duggan and Miller aside, good running back, good quarterback, good running back in the order I gave you, I just am not impressed with TCU, but here they are in the conversation for a college football playoff. Tough game at Texas this weekend. TCU staying power, would you have a problem if they're number 4 tonight? And would that mean anything to Tennessee, to either one of you, if TCU is number 4 tonight and Tennessee is number 5?
I think it shows you it might be harder for Tennessee based on what's remaining on their schedule and not playing in an SEC championship game to get into the top 4. But I don't think it's really going to matter because I think TCU, I think we all agree they're going to lose this week.
If you wanted to read anything into it, and I'm not certain you can, but if you wanted to, Dunaway, what you would read into it is that this committee is operating with the perception of who is a conference champion, and they perceive TCU as the Big 12 representative, quote-unquote, conference champion, and not Tennessee. So that if you wanted to read anything into it, you would read into it that not being a conference champion is going to hurt Tennessee. Which, I think you already assume. You just don't know how much it's going to hurt them, right?
That's right. You don't know how much it's going to hurt them. Another thing to watch is how far does Clemson come down. We pretty much think Clemson is not in the conversation anymore for the college football playoff. But what if Notre Dame is ranked, and how high is Notre Dame ranked after beating Clemson? And a close loss to Ohio State, a quality loss, if you will. If Notre Dame is ranked, how high is Notre Dame ranked?
Notre Dame is going to be anywhere from 22 to 25.
Yeah, because we don't know where they were in the committee's mind last week.
That's right. They were outside the top 25.
So it's not like you can use others getting votes to gauge that.
That's not how they do it. Exactly.
Yeah, they'll be in, though. One final thing about Tennessee that I thought was interesting, I'm looking here, there's 15 different college football writers for ESPN that did their top 4, and only one of the 15 had Tennessee in their top 4. And we all believe Tennessee will get there.
Really?
Well, we're in SEC country. I would imagine a lot of those people are. Chris Lowe's in there. Chris didn't have him either, did he?
Chris Lowe did not. Alex Scarborough did not. Slaybach did not. There's enough SEC flavor in here. Ryan McGee, I would consider him SEC. Would you not?
Yeah, I would.
He does not.
Yeah. See, that surprised me. Nobody's got Tennessee there.
It was a bad loss, but we kind of saw it coming, right?
But Tennessee will have an advantage over Oregon, in my opinion, Brown, just because of Tennessee, the way they played Georgia and the way Oregon played Georgia.
Yeah, I hate that it would. I would hope it wouldn't come down to just that. Obviously, maybe that breaks the tie. I don't know. A loss to me is a loss, and I get what you're saying. One got run out of the stadium. One started to get run out of the stadium and then stopped the run, right? That's the difference of those two games.
Right.
One got run out of the stadium and really found no way to put up a defense. The other one was getting run out of the stadium and finally, was able just to stem the tide a little bit. But a loss to me is a loss. I would hope they wouldn't consider that strongly unless they just absolutely needed something to break the tie between the two. I'm just fine, again, and I said this last week, I'm fine with them saying, look, we think Tennessee would beat Oregon if they played. We could be wrong about that. We don't know. But maybe they'll play. But we think Tennessee's the better football team. We think Tennessee's better than TCU, or we think Oregon's better than TCU. That's to me, the committee gets so caught up on they talk themselves in circles, and a lot of times they talk themselves into a corner trying to justify their picks. To me, if we're going to have humans, I would like to have people that I think know football so they can look at it and say Tennessee looks like the better team to me.
Well, they do that, the old eye test sometimes, right?
Yeah, and people hate it when they say the eye test. Well, why else are we letting people sit around and watch games if we're not going to allow the eye test to be used? That's why I want people that know football on this committee.
It's got to be used.
Yeah.
Is there still something for game control, by the way?
Yeah, that's one of the metrics they use.
Well, TCU has not really controlled any games.
They have not.
You,
But, I mean, if you go with Tennessee, they didn't with Georgia. They were back and forth with Alabama, so there were times they were losing minutes. I guess they had the whole first half of game control.
Control the entire 4 quarters against LSU.
They did from the get-go, from the opening kickoff fumble.
you know what might be an interesting way of doing this? I've never thought of this until I just said what I said about the committee. What if one day when there's an expanded playoff and all the networks are involved in it, they just let the network analysts do this? Like Klatt, Todd Blackledge, Herb Street,
Well, I think we've seen.
Danielson even. I know people hate Danielson, but throw him in.
I think we've seen those guys become very territorial with the TV rights they have.
There's no doubt. But if you had all of them involved, that would work itself out. If everybody's got their own little piece of territory, that gets neutralized by having enough people on the committee.
I mean, these are the guys that are watching the games. They are the guys that.
That's right. They know football better than most of the people on this committee.
Talking to the coaches.
Yeah. I mean, watching more film probably than the committee watches. Those guys like Klatt, they all watch film breaking games down.
I would say with the automatic bids being back into play when we go to 12 teams, I would be okay with the rest of it being decided by the old BCS formula.
Oh, so just go back to the computers and I wouldn't have a problem with that. Like once you get, all right, here are all 6 conference or 5 or whatever conferences we end up at. They're all in.
Yeah.
Now we got to find 7 more spots. Yeah.
Here are the 5 automatic bids, and the 6th highest rated conference champion in the BCS gets in the BCS rankings. The computer.
I mean, I wouldn't
the
have a
computer spits out the rankings for the rest of them.
I wouldn't have a problem with it. And then you're able to track it all year the way you did the BCS.
That's right.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's the way I would do it, and take the humans back out of it, because at that point you've got 6 automatic bids, and at that point we're just using the computers to come up with the wild cards. Interesting tonight. We'll watch that. Not as interesting as the last one, and maybe by the time we get to the very end, it won't be that interesting either. Maybe there'll be 4 obvious teams. Andrew says, y'all's disrespect for TCU is astounding. They have 4 top 25 wins and are undefeated. What else can they do to earn their way in there?
I want to
just keep winning.
Yeah, I mean, no, if they win, they'll be fine. But I did want to bring that up because I was watching TCU Texas Tech in the early window, and Klatt said their resume, if it was Oklahoma or Texas, they would easily be in the top.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's any
So
doubt.
you agree with Klatt on that?
Yep.
Because it just depends on, the top 25 wins are Oklahoma, who's turned out to be
Very average.
a very average team. Kansas, who's one of the better Kansas teams, no doubt. Oklahoma State, who, boy, is taking on water right now, but still. Kansas State's a pretty good team. And then they play Texas this week.
But the resume is not as good as some of those other teams. I've still got TCU at number 5. I just think there's 4 teams that are better.
Yeah, and when you go back to TCU, Chris, or whoever it was it's gone by
Andrew.
so fast. Andrew, go back and check how many teams lost their first-string quarterback either before or during the TCU game along the way. I think 3 of the wins you gave me.
Really?
Kansas got theirs knocked out. Martinez got knocked out in the.
He did.
Yeah. So it's
Chris says neutral over in the Vulcan Tire and Automotive chat room. Neutral field, Tennessee beats TCU. I think Tennessee scores 60 on TCU.
Oh, it would be a track meet. Yeah, but now TCU would move it on.
No,
Duggan's
they
a good
would,
quarterback.
but I still
and-
think Tennessee would win this game by double digits, and they would really. I mean, I think they would approach 60 points.
We'll see if TCU can keep their name in the conversation with a tough road game at Texas, who they survived last week. They were starting to leak away from them at the end, and was about to have another second half blown lead for Sark last week, but they finally got out of there, and they get game day this week right there in Austin for that huge showdown, TCU in Texas, coming up in prime time this week.